On the Real Journey show, you can expect to hear about a real journey. The listeners will be reminded that life experiences have a compelling way of connecting us, inspiring us, and empowering us to stay real. Hi, welcome back to the Real Journey Show. This is episode 30, Something About Nothing. Today's episode was inspired by this absolutely adorable book that I found in our local bookstore called All About Nothing. It's by Elizabeth Rusch and Elizabeth Goss. The cutest little book teaching about negative space in art. So the white space. Throughout the book, it talks about how important the white space, nothing, is. And it just calls the white space nothing every single time. It talks about how nothing catches our attention, how we couldn't possibly read without nothing. I mean, how could you see the words on the page if there were no white space with the black words, right? I love it when it talks about music and how a song is just not the same when it doesn't have these moments of rest or silence. Or I think about like concerts when it comes to the drums and everything's playing and all of a sudden it's like boom, and then it comes back and you are just pumped and screaming and on your feet. Or if you think about a time that you smile, for example, what about when you smile? That's a white space. How could we see those beautiful smiles out in the world without, if you will, nothing? I also appreciate within the book when it talks about how we can have too much of nothing or too little of nothing. And I find in a busy world that I live in, that you live in, and if you think like me, we talked about that last week, I am just always creating, always thinking, always going. It's hard for me to find and make time for nothing. But recently, after having this surgery, I've had a lot of time to spend doing nothing, especially compared to what I'm used to doing. And I'm reminded of how important nothing really is. There is just something about nothing. And one of the things I've used to fill some of that space of nothing is the mindful minute. I talk a lot about this with students, with teachers, and how just taking 1 minute throughout the day to breathe, to listen to calming sounds, to not get on your phone or your email and shut your eyes and think about nothing. Just be. It is so powerful. One of my favorite breathing techniques, by the way, is triangle breathing, where you breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold it for 5 seconds, and then breathe out for 5 seconds. That style of breathing works like a charm. I can do like 5 of those and feel like a brand new human when I'm done. There is just something about nothing. One of the other things I'm often reminded of is the pausing in speeches. I recently had a keynote where I had way too much stuff crowded in my keynote. I thought I had a little more things I wanted to share, and I thought I could just kind of roll with it. But the truth is, what happened is it took out my moments where I have nothing. And that is where I have that silence. And I have that pause where the audience has a moment to process what has just been said. And too often, if we miss those moments, we bombard our audience or our listeners with so much stuff. My goodness, my poor friends, family members, those at the other end of the phone, when I am pumped up about something, they get absolutely nothing and they can't get a word in edgewise. And I wonder how much more powerful whatever I'm saying would be if I just took a moment to pause and allow the listener to process. Because when I do that in my speeches, when I hear that in other people's speeches, I always appreciate it and it catches my attention. One of the pages in the book, All About Nothing, it talks about nothing catches our attention. And it has this beautiful page covered with puzzle pieces all put together and one missing one. And I think, how true is that in so many areas of our life where nothing is really something? For example, lately I have had experience a lot of nothing. After having this hysterectomy, I've been not able to fulfill my normal, exciting, very busy schedule. And I've not been able to work out. I've not been able to travel. I can't get on a plane. I can drive, but I can't get on a plane. And there's just so many things that I can't do right now. But during this time of nothing, if you will, I've had an opportunity to process, to think about things that I've been wanting to do for a long time and haven't made the time for it. And why don't I start creating? Why don't I start doing some of those things? One of them is video creation, which is why you're experiencing a video with this podcast right now. If you're listening on the Real Journey Show podcast, if you ever want to watch it and see all this animation, head over to Real Talk with Tara Mart on YouTube and you can find the video of each episode. I will say I am a rookie at creating. I'm hoping to see this progress over time, but I've had some wonderful people in my corner, some colleagues to be able to support me. Claudio is helping me with video creation and some ideas. I'm trying to implement some of them even today and throughout the next several weeks as I'm creating. But I wouldn't have made time to focus on that if I didn't have this space of nothingness in my life right now. And I'm very appreciative of it. It's given me so much of something. It's given me a new zeal and excitement for creating. I love creating and I do it so often for work. And sometimes I forget how beautiful and fun it is to learn something new, to experiences the ups and the downs and the rocky middles of all the things of trying a new process and not being really good at it, but putting it out there for the audience to see and watch you grow. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have the space to engage with it. So there is truly something about nothing and thinking about pausing. Another idea or example that came to my mind was episodes of shows. I've also had a lot of time to watch some shows, which I usually don't spend much time doing at all. And I love personally starting a series that is new and all the episodes aren't available. I love it when you just get one and then you have to wait a whole week for the next one. One, I'm not a very patient person, but one of the things that is so special about waiting the whole week is all the processing that gets to take place, all the dreams I get to have of what I think might happen next. It is so fun and exciting. And I anticipate the next episode coming out. I can't wait to see what's going to happen. And if I wouldn't have had that big space, nothing, no new episodes to process in that way, I'm not sure I would feel equally as excited. For example, I've watched some episodes with my husband where all the episodes are available and you just keep watching after, I think they call it binge watching. That is not something I do very often, but I've binged watched shows before and it's really not as exciting. It's not as fun to wait for the next episode and get to experience all that processing that takes place. So nothing gives us time for processing. No doubt, if you're listening to this episode and you're experiencing a lot of nothing in your life, I definitely believe there can be too much of nothing. And in the book, it talks about that. And in that case, I advise and encourage you to find something that you can do with that nothing, something about nothing, because being able to create a list of things that I can try, watching YouTube videos every single week to learn something new during my nothingness has been very helpful for me. It has encouraged me. It has made me not think about the things that I'm missing out on: CrossFit, working out, my run club, all the things that I love doing, the socialization that really happens on the daily in my life has been taken out. So it is very challenging to not experience that every single day. But I haven't had a ton of time to dwell on the negative side of that because I feel the space with something, if that makes sense. You don't want to fill all your nothingness with something, but there is a time where experiencing nothing can help us think of new somethings to add into our life. And I really am loving that in my life right now. Another way that this something about nothing has applied in my life recently is having moments to stretch and do mobility exercises. One of the things that I struggle with in most of my lifts is ankle mobility. So having these moments to be able to use my little bands and spend a few minutes a day just working on my ankle mobility has been so helpful. And I honestly, I don't scroll down my phone. I don't check my email during that time. I really don't allow my mind to think about a ton of things. I just take time, stretch my ankle, and soak up those moments of a little bit of nothing. I hope that you have found some part of this podcast to be helpful in your life. And if you haven't already read All About Nothing, this is a wonderful book to share with your students, with your children, with your friends, with your family. I love it so much. There's so much real life application to every single page. It is absolutely adorable. And if by chance you are experiencing not enough nothing in your life, that you will make space for that, make space for some nothingness, because truly, as on the last page of All About Nothing says, because nothing is really something. So, just a little something about nothing. Hope you enjoyed that today. I'll see you next week on the Real Journey Show.